Hi, I'm William White, the composer of Turning Toward the Sun, and I'm here to offer a few ideas about the piece and how to perform it. Now, as you'll probably know, this piece is a memorial work. It was written in honor of a young woman who died very tragically. She was a senior in high school. She got a terrible disease, very sudden, very unexpected. And so this piece, in terms of its emotional content, it's a bit sad, it's a bit plaintive, it's a bit wistful. But as the piece progresses, it lightens up, it brightens up, and ultimately it's a life-affirming work. So it's got to have that balance of those two characteristics. Now, as far as the music itself is concerned, let's take a look at the beginning here. It starts out with this little motto theme that will come back several times during the course of the piece. A few things to say about this. It's, I think, worth tearing apart because it does come back so often. The first thing, the opening note is a unison pitch. And so for everybody who's playing that very first note, it should sound just as in tune as though it were being played by one note on a piano. The second thing to say about it is the kind of sweep, the shape of the gesture. So that the whole thing moves towards the downbeat of the second bar. And so everybody who's playing this needs to shape that motif in the same direction. Okay, now we come to the main melody of the piece, this. So at the beginning, that's played by the flute in unison with the vibraphone, if you have it, and the accompaniment is in two clarinets, both marked solo, so that meaning one player, and the marimba with the bass bassoon kind of trailing along with the bass line. So you get this. And that, excuse me. And that accompaniment is really what I want to focus on here, because it's written in quarter notes, and the tempo is marked to 84, which is not a very fast tempo. But I think that the accompaniment people need to really think about emphasizing the downbeat of each bar and then letting the rest just sort of scoot along very gently, kind of liquid-like. The point that I want to make here is that the flute solo is very low in its register. So if this part doesn't move, the flutist is going to run out of breath because they have to support a lot down here to be heard in this solo. So really try to play chamber music style, play nice and softly, but also just let the whole thing gently glide along so that you're not holding up the flute soloist on the melody. The other thing for the two clarinetists who are playing with the marimba that I'd like to say is, the marimba is an immovable object with regards to intonation. You can't retune a marimba unless you send the rosewood bars back to the wood workshop. So the clarinets really have to listen very carefully, home in on the marimba's pitch, and match that exactly. And really try to balance with the marimba so that we hear a beautiful combined tone quality between the instruments. In the seventh bar of the piece, the flute gets really low. So we get this. And that's the flute's, essentially the flute's lowest note right there, a middle C. So clarinets in the seventh bar, you've got to find an even darker tone, play it even a little bit softer, probably goes for the marimba as well, so that you're not interfering with the flute's melodic content. Okay, then we get to letter A, which is this gentle march. A few things to say here. First of all, I would say to the people playing the downbeats, so this would be the bassoon, the euphonium, the tuba, and the bass drum, these notes should sound almost like a pizzicato of a string bass or a cello. So just give them a nice reverberant tone, but short, so that they pop. They just sort of, they have a little bit of life to them. And that's important, especially, I think, for the bass drum. I know that a lot of school bass drums have maybe seen better years. They might sound a little flabby or a little thuddy, but work to find the right stick or the right beater and the right point to play on the drum head to get a little poof of sound at the beginning of every bar here. Don't play so loud that you overwhelm the rest of the instruments that are playing. It really is marked pianissimo. And to everybody who starts at letter A, you are marked mezzo piano, then diminuendo, and then piano in the third bar. So we've really got to hear that sequence of diminishing dynamics. To the people who play the little offbeats, we want to hear you unified, no instruments sticking out, no color sticking out, no notes sticking out. And you could have a little bit of almost diminuendo on each bar. Ta 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 ta. Now, that little accompaniment figure moves from the beginning of A to the first bar of figure A to in the, the seventh bar? It goes to the clarinets and the bass clarinet. 4 bars later, it goes to the saxophones. What I am looking for here is to not hear any change of dynamic, of accent, of balance. All I want to hear is a color change as this little motive gets passed from instrument group to instrument group. So since it starts in the horns and the trombones, that might mean that you have to play a little bit softer. And clarinets might have to play a little bit louder so that there's a perfect balance, and all we hear is the color. We don't hear any rupture in the sound, in the texture, as it goes from instrument to instrument. But saxophones, you probably have to fit in the middle there somehow. Okay, now we get to letter B. So the main theme comes back, but now it's got this trill, march, the kind of march motif backing it up. And then it goes to a very liquid sequence of triplets. Obviously building towards something, and that thing is letter C. Now, letter C is marked poco maestoso, slightly majestically or slightly broadly. The tempo mark is listed as quarter note equals 88. That's just 2 clicks slower than the tempo at figure A, which was 96. So it's just offering the music a slight chance to broad. Don't think of it as really slower. It's just a hair off the tempo. Now at letter C, it's the bass instruments who have the melody here. Okay, so bass instruments don't often get the melody, or don't quite as often get it as the higher instruments. So I would just say, I've marked this fortissimo. That shouldn't be a strident fortissimo. This should be just a full, rich sound. So find the most beautiful tone quality that you can find in your instrument. And I think it would be worthwhile just having the low instruments with the melody here, having them play together so that you all can find a balance within the melodic players here. Because there's a lot of you. There's euphonium, trombones, horns, tenor bass, all the saxes, bass clarinet. And it would be good to hear a blended sound where you've all found that most beautiful characteristic quality of playing full, rich notes in your instrument. Now, at letter D, there's this kind of surprise harmony because, right before that you have this, and then D flat major chord. There are a variety of reasons why this might want to slow down here, but it really shouldn't. If anything, the opposite. It should just feel maybe a little bit of increasing of motion, because there's the theme gets a heroic cast here in the horns. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Oh, wrong note. So really go for that, and let this have extra life here, extra punch. Once again, without getting punchy in the sound. Okay, then the whole thing cools down a bit, and at letter E, we've got this beautiful cascade. Sorry. Now, as lovely as this is, once again, slowing down is the opposite of what you should do. It should just still flow very nicely, just tumble down in the gentlest possible way, but probably thinking in half notes rather than in quarter notes. And then the little flutes and the piccolo have a moment. Oh, that's after letter F. Let's see if there's anything that needs to be said before that. At letter F, same thing that I said at the beginning. The accompaniments, these little liquid quarter notes, even if you take it a little slower, should have just a kind of a glass-like quality. And then the little piccolo and the two flutes here. You can take a little time before letter G. A little ritardano would be quite appropriate there. Letter G, it's the opening motif expanded out, building until letter H. And at H, it should really have a feeling of breadth, of power here. Oh, darn it. And then the solo clarinet with a little vibraphone is left, kind of forlorn, alone at the end. And then this last bar with the wind chimes and the percussion is really just a moment. It's a chance for the audience to take in what they've just heard, to have this kind of reflective soundscape experience, and just to sit for a while. So it can be a pretty long bar here, this fermata, just so that people, can just take a breath, sit with this for a second, and have that kind of reflective moment. Anyway, that is a little bit about Turning Toward the Sun. I thank you so much for your excellent preparation and your performing the piece. I hope you enjoy it, and thanks so much.